Hi guys, welcome to another Commander deck breakdown. So right now we are going to be going over my Pantlaza deck. So once again, just want to say this is not the perfect Commander deck for Pantlaza. This is just what I've decided to make work in my deck. You can change it however you want to do, but this is what works for me. So Pantlaza, Sun Favored. He's a 4/4. Whenever he or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. If you are unfamiliar with Discover, right here, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with that mana value or less. Cast it without paying its mana cost or put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So Discover is basically an upgrade over Cascade. Cascade is the mana less than whatever the value is. And I also believe it goes off of the mana cost. Discover is creature's toughness. And this is you can either do equal or less than. So getting into it, the lands are nothing super special. However, there are a few ones that I have put in, like Arena of Glory. I'm a little curious as to how I'm going to play with this one. It's very straightforward. It's either tap it for one mountain, or you tap it for a mountain. I'm sorry, you use a mountain and tap it, and then you exert it, and then you get two mountain, but it won't untap at the next untap step. So kind of see how that's going to go. Hidden Nursery, Hidden Volcano, both of those in their own right, add a green or add a red. And then if you pay a green or a red in 4, you can sacrifice it and discover 4. So it just gives more options. Um, I've also added Urza's Cave, which is to get a colorless. And then if you pay 3 and tap it, sacrifice it, you get to search your library for a land card. And the great thing it says is it's a land card, so it doesn't need to be basic. As far as the artifacts go, some really nice ones here. Chimmel the Inner Sun. Spells you control can't be countered. And then at the beginning of your end step, you discover 5. So it's a really good card. Not the only deck that has it for sure. It does play a pretty big role when it is on the field for me. And then there's also Monster Manual and Zoological Study. You might remember this one from the Prosh Commander deck. I actually swapped out all of the decks that had Quicksilver Amulet for Monster Manual just because it is cheaper to use that ability. Sword and Light and Shadow. This one is from the Assassin's Creed set. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from white and from black. And then whenever equipped creature deals damage to a player, I gain 3 life, and I may return 1 target creature card from my graveyard to my hand, only 2 to equip. So it is a pretty good card, very reasonably priced. This is a new edition, so I'm really curious to see how it's going to go the next time I play it. Urza's Incubator. It's a pretty expensive card, depending on where you can get it from. And basically, you choose creature type, and they cost 2 colorless less to cast, which I'm sure you can see. I play a lot of pretty expensive creatures, so this is a pretty good card for me to have. For the enchantments, Defense of the Heart, this is actually a brand new one as well. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls 3 or more creatures, sacrifice Defense of the Heart, search your library for up to 2 creature cards, and put those cards onto the battlefield. So it is a pretty good way, if you know you're not going to have creatures out and your opponent does, it's pretty good card to have. Descendant's Path is also a really good, useful card. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card that shares a creature type with a creature you control, you may cast it with paying its mana cost. And if you don't, it goes on the bottom of your library. Definitely think that is a very worthwhile card. It's obviously super useful. Mirari's Wake. I mean, honestly, I'm really happy with all of my enchantments. Mirari's Wake, creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. So obviously this works really well with a deck that runs very high cost creatures. Um, and then Monstrous Vortex, also pulled from the Modern Horizons 3 pack. Whenever you cast a creature with power 5 or greater, discover X, where X is that spell's mana value. Um, I have a lot of pretty big creatures in this deck, so thought I'd throw it in there and see how that works out. As far as instants, I don't really have too many. Chroma's Will, this honestly is, I mean, chances are my Pantlaza is already out and I'm able to play both abilities. It's a pretty good way to win the game if you know you're able to pull that off. And then Entish Restoration, I think this is a really good instant to have. Sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, instead search your library for 3 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped. You'll see that's really not an issue. I have many of creatures that are power 4 or greater, so this is a really good card to have. And you can also sacrifice one of the lands that you use to cast the card. So, it's just something to think about there. And then Smuggler's Surprise, I actually just got this card, brand new as well. It's instant with Spree, so you can choose more abilities if you have them. Have the land to do it. Mill 4 cards. You may put up to 2 creature and or land cards from one of your mill cards in your hand. The middle ability, you may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Or the last ability is creature you control with power 4 or greater gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. I think this is going to be a really useful card for me, and I think this will make my deck fast. Before I retooled it, even in the title, it is retooled. I actually, well, really everything got changed. I had almost 50 creatures, 50. Almost 50. I think had 48, so I went down by 12. And as you can see, I do play, there's a lot of creatures here that are pretty high cost. So Pantlaza was actually a pretty fast deck considering all those factors. Now that I've taken some creatures out, swapped them out for some cheaper ones, and made some changes to instance. Well, pretty much anything not creatures. This deck should be, in theory, faster. Um, uh, Let me see here. Don't move. This is from the Jurassic World expansion set or Universes Beyond, whatever you want to call it. So this is destroy all tapped creatures until your next turn. Whenever a creature becomes tapped, destroy it. Um, I have only been able to play this once, and it kind of worked pretty well for me. I would say that it is more useful in a multiplayer, like 3 or 4 person match, not a one-on-one. Um, but again, it serves its purpose. Hit the mother load. This is basically discover 10. And if the card's mana value is less than 10, create a number of tap treasure tokens equal to the difference. So I've played this card once, and I think it was only a 4 cost card. And so I had 6 treasure tokens. I wasn't really going to complain about that. It's a cool card to have. This is a brand new card. Last March of the Ents. Can't be countered, and draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control. Then put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Again, this is to try to make the deck faster. This is to get all of these expensive things out faster. So in theory, this should work. Star of Extinction, nice little bit of a board wipe. Destroy target land. It deals 20 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. And then this is a new one I just added as well. Viewpoint Synchronization, Sorcery, free running. I may cast a spell for its running cost if I dealt combat damage to a player this turn with an assassin or commander. Um, Not entirely sure how that's going to work. I honestly don't really use Pantlaza to attack very much, just due to the simple fact of I don't want to lose that discover ability. I have other things obviously that have that, but I try not to attack them. So we're gonna see how that goes. But it's search your library for up to 3 basic land cards and reveal them. Put 2 of them onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. So we're gonna see how that works. My Planeswalker, Hualti, Dinosaur Knight. I think it is useful. I don't play her a whole lot, but when she does come out, it does help. Starts at a 4+2 is put 2/1/1 counters on up to one target dinosaur you control. -3 target dinosaur you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control, or -7 dinosaurs you control get +4/+4 to the end of the turn. So it is useful. Um, let's see here. Uh, Dr. Ian Malcolm, this is obviously, if you know, this is from the Secret Lair. It's actually Atla Palini, I'm sorry, Palani, Nest Tender. You create an egg with Defender, and when it dies, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you get a creature card and you put it on the battlefield. So again, making it faster, using these eggs to chump block, it's a good one. Atali, Primal Storm. Everybody, I think, that runs Dinosaur uses him as a commander. I don't, clearly. But whenever he attacks, you exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. Let's see. This was another one. Galta and Maverin. This is from the Phyrexia set when they were merging stuff. So this one is a 12/12 with trample. And whenever you attack, you choose one. You either create a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures, or create X/1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. So this should be interesting. I'm curious as to how it's gonna play out for me, but I'm looking forward to it. Galta Primal Hunger costs 2 forests and 10 colorless, but he costs X last to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. Also a trample, so as you can imagine, typically this is a later, maybe like turn 7, turn 8 if I'm lucky kind of card, but it kind of just depends. Um, and then next, Gishath. So Gishath is Vigilance, Trample, Haste, 7/6. When he deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards from the top of your library. Put any number of dinosaur creature cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest onto the bottom of your library in random order. So it is worth noting, actually, that before this became a Pantlaza deck, this was a Gishath deck. Um, and to be quite honest, it either worked really well or it was absolutely horrible. Because the deck was kind of slow and it took a kind of a long time to get Gishath, it really didn't pay off as much as one might think it did. Um, so kind of just depends. But once Pantlaza came out, I bought the pre-con. I realized the pre-con was super fast, and I was like, okay, well, I could probably merge my Gishath deck and this Pantlaza deck, and I can make a much faster, better deck. Kinjali Sunwing. Nobody likes this card, but I do, obviously. It's flying. Creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So it kind of buys you a little bit of time. Knight of the Stampede, I would recommend for any dinosaur tribal, but it's 2/4, and dinosaur spells you cast cost 2 colorless less. So obviously, if you combine that with Urza's Incubator, it can make it a little bit easier. Polyraptor. Everybody knows Polyraptor, 5/5. Whenever he's dealt damage, create a token that's a copy of Polyraptor. So I actually, it's not here yet. I haven't made the change yet, but eventually I'm going to be swapping out one of these creatures for Marauding Raptor, because Marauding Raptor, whenever a creature comes out, it deals 2 damage to that creature. So actually, with Polyraptor, you do have a little mini infinite combo. Um, so it does kind of, you can really build that up pretty well. Let's see what other Ravenous Tyrannosaurus. This card's actually a lot of fun. I love it when I bring it out. Starts out as a 6/6 with Devour 3. As he enters the battlefield, I may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with 3 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. So, obviously, you can imagine this can get ridiculous really fast. And whenever he attacks, it deals damage equal to its power to up to one other target creature. Excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. So obviously, this can get nuts real quick. And I've played it once, and it was insane. Nobody was happy. I was, but nobody else was. And then Sawhorn Nemesis. So this is a new card I've actually brought in as well. You choose a player, and then if a source would deal damage to the chosen player or a permanent they control, it deals double that damage instead. So obviously this works really well in a 1v1, but if you are playing a multiplayer game, like 3 or 4, maybe even 5, this could really help turn the tide and maybe get rid of a threat a little bit faster. Sunblessed Mount. So this works well with Hualti mainly because whenever he enters the battlefield, you get to search for Hualti. But I mean, she doesn't go onto the battlefield; she goes into your hand. Again, I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know if Hualti is going to be staying in. I don't know if Sunblessed Mount is going to be staying in. As of right now, it works. I got no issues with it, but that may change. Sunfurl Imitator, also a great card to have. Whenever he attacks, it may become a copy of another target dinosaur you control, except its name is Sunfurl Imitator and has this ability. So that's a really great card to have. I'd highly recommend it. Temple Altasaur, I mean, can't go wrong with this card. If a source would deal damage to another dinosaur you control, prevent all but one of that damage. So it's almost like a mini indestructible. I highly recommend it. Territorial Hammer Skull. Again, it's funny. It's similar to Kanjali's Sunwing. Whenever he attacks, you tap target creature and opponent controls. Uh, Honestly, it's hilarious when if you have both, it works really well. Trumpeting Carnosaur. So trample 7/6. When he enters the battlefield, you discover 5. Again, trying to make things a little bit more fast, trying to get stuff out a little bit quicker. That's the whole remodeling that this deck went through recently. Vaultborn Tyrant from Thunder Junction. With Trample, it's a 6/6. When he or another creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life and draw a card. And when he dies, if it's not a token, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So I think this is a really worthwhile card. I think it costs around like 28 bucks. I got lucky and pulled it from a pack. I'd highly recommend it if you're able to get it. I think it works really well. And then the last two I mainly want to go over is Zacama, Primal Calamity. So it's a 9/9 with Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. And when he enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you untap all lands you control. And then there's other abilities. Red and 2 colorless, deals 3 damage to target creature. Green and 2 colorless, destroy target artifact or enchantment. White and 2 colorless, you gain 3 life. So before this actually became a Gishath deck, Zacama was the commander, mainly because of his abilities. That once you cast it, you basically untapped your land, got almost like another free upkeep. But again, it took forever to get him out there because of how expensive he is. And it didn't always pay off the way that I wanted it to. So took Zacama, switched him in Gishath because Gishath was a part of the 99. Then Pantlaza came out, took out, well, didn't take out Gishath, switched him out, made a Pantlaza deck. So this deck over the last several years has gone through quite a bit of changes. And then Zatalpa Primal Dawn, it's a 4/8 with flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, indestructible. A lot of people know of this if you're going to run a mono white dino deck. I've seen this be the commander a lot. And again, there's ways to make it cheaper. So yeah, so this is the Pantlaza deck that I've been working on. Again, if you have any sort of suggestions or maybe just some sort of advice, changing things up, however you want to go about it, you can feel free to comment on it. But again, this is the deck that, as of right now, where it stands, and I do think that it is a pretty good deck. Again, not perfect. I don't think it's the gold standard, but I do think that it has a lot to offer. So, yeah, we'll see you on the next one.